Okie dokie, so we are on to round 3. For round 3, I'm going to use this variegated yarn. Like I said in the intro, if you don't have a variegated yarn like this or a multicolored yarn, this one really switches colors all the time, so it works great for this. You can use any color you want. These ones with the variegated yarn that I have, or the textured yarns I have, they are just individual little pops of color. They're not connecting up with the overlay stitches, which means you don't have to be consistent with it. You really can use anything you want. If you have some bright, cool color you'd rather use instead, go for it. You really can play around with these. But if you have something that's got more than one color kind of twisted into it, they look fantastic. So if you got something like that, go ahead and use it. Remember, the yarn needs to be similar weight, but it doesn't have to be exact. These aren't the same weight, but they work okay together. That's really all you want to make sure, that you're not having huge variations in the yarn weight. Otherwise, your bag will kind of go out and then in and then out and be a little crazy. Even that can be fun, but you don't want to overdo it. So I'm going to go ahead and join in any stitch. Since I can pick any stitch I want, I'm going to go somewhere away from where we just did our needle join because I don't want them piling up. So I'm going to flip the work to the other side and start somewhere here in the middle. And anywhere I want, I'll go right here. You're going to start in the back loop only. Pull through your yarn and a chain. That's how we join. That's going to count as our first single crochet. So though we could join everywhere, we're not doing just single crochets this whole round. We're actually going to do some spike stitches too. Again, just to bring some different color and pattern into it. So this whole round, all the way around, we're going to do a single crochet. Our chain stitch counts as that. And then a spike stitch, meaning we're going to go underneath and around this whole orange single crochet, not into the loops. So single crochet, meaning through the back loop only. I'm going to carry my tail in the stitch there. So back loop only, single crochet, and now spike going all the way around the entire orange single crochet from the last round. So that lets us have some more funky color here. So just do that pattern all the way around. Single crochet, spike. So like I said, if you don't have the variegated yarn, use any color you think would look funky with this orange yarn. You don't want it to be so similar that you can't see or discern the spike stitches, but you can really, do anything you want. Single, spike. Single, spike. So go ahead, do that all the way around, and I'll catch you for the needle join at least one last time. Okay, finishing up round number 3 here. You notice my very last stitch of the round is a spike stitch, which is what it should be, because then it connects up with our first stitch, which was the single crochet. So the pattern completes. It's one way to check that you have at least an even number of stitches. If you end up having your last stitch here be just a single crochet, you're missing a spike, you may want to go back and check the pattern just to make sure that you did get everything in there right. So now that we have finished all the way around, I'm going to do the needle join to finish it out. So again with the needle join, soon I won't be doing these, it's just the first few rounds I show you how to do it. So again, just pull the yarn through the stitch, take your hook from back to front and go to the first single crochet, ignore the chain stitch where we joined, pull it through both loops, bring the yarn back into the front. Now go to the last single crochet, you're going to come just through the back loop, so in the middle of the stitch, grab our tail and pull it in through the middle of that guy, and that gives you an end that looks exactly like a single crochet, so you can't tell where it was joined. So there's our work here. I have a couple of old tails that are kind of in the middle here. I can clean that up. I like holding my stitches, or like holding the tails in my stitches, so I avoid extra work later on. Anything I can do all at once, it just makes it a little faster. Oop, I got another big tail here. Let me get this guy. There we go. So by now your side should be nicely going up straight. As I said, my work twists for quite a while because I do my stitches pretty tight. I love the spike stitch with the variegated yarn because it really starts adding some interest to the design. So I always think that's really fun. Our next round is where we're going to start doing the overlay stitches. So that stuff is going to be coming over and connecting up into the front loops that we haven't been using. That's why we do back loop only, so all these front loops are available for us to work into. So the next one is where the real pattern starts to begin, and we'll pick that up in just a minute. Okay, we're on to round 4. This is where the start of our overlay pattern really begins. So from now on, most of the rounds we're going to do are going to be repeats of 6. So we're going to have a section of 15 stitches that we do 6 times all the way around. So it's nice because you just sort of get into this repetitive pattern. So orange yarn, we're going to start at a somewhat random part. We want along one of the long sides here the first spike stitch. So it should be somewhere near this corner. It doesn't matter if it's the first or the second stitch. You just want the first spike stitch. We just want to anchor our design close to the corner here. So that's what I chose. So my first spike stitch happens to be here. If you had started one stitch over when we began that round, remember you could start in any stitch. You may find your first spike stitch over here or over a bit more here. Go ahead and pick either thing, just the first spike that's sort of closest to this corner of your work on the long side. So I got my yarn. I'm going to start it right here. And again, we start just with a chain. That's going to count as our first single crochet. I'm just trying to grab my tail. Oh, I'm holding it with that finger. That's why it's not working. All right. So I join here with my chain. That's my first single crochet. The second stitch in the pattern is actually going to be a treble, an overlay stitch that's going to go into this front loop right here. And when we do that, we're always going to grab the loops from the bottom. So treble crochet means we're going to yarn over twice, come into that front loop from the bottom, grab our yarn, pull through, and now it's just finishing a standard treble crochet. So yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through 2 loops. That's our treble crochet, and it is an overlay because we're doing it in front of the stitches. So it's a little hard to see right here in the corner, but we need to start in the corner, so I apologize for that. So all of these overlay stitches, whether it's like this, just a treble into a front loop, or later on the front loop stitches we have, or rather the front post stitches we have where we go around a previous overlay stitch, whenever you do it, you're going to want to skip the single crochet in the back because this stitch is taking the place of the single crochet here. So we're going to go ahead and skip 1 stitch here and do 3 single crochet after that. So 1, 2, and 3. The reason we skip the stitch is so that we don't do an accidental increase or decrease. We don't want any extra. We want 90 all the way around every single time. So if we did this front post or this overlay stitch and then I also worked in that stitch in the back, I'd end up adding an extra stitch I don't want. So when you do an overlay, you skip the stitch in the back. So we did 1 single crochet, the treble overlay, 3 single crochet, and now we have another treble. So yarn over twice. We're going to go into the white front loop directly below the next stitch. So right here. And finish the stitch. So that one in the back, I'm going to go ahead and skip that so I don't get any extra ones in here. And now to finish the repeat, I want 9 single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, oops. 6, 7, 8, and 9. So that is the repeat. We're going to do this 6 times. So at the end, we're going to have this sort of pair of overlay stitches and then a nice long stretch of single crochet. So again, the repeat is single crochet, a treble overlay, skip a stitch, 3 single crochet, another treble, skip a stitch, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 single crochet after that. That's the repeat. If you've got it, you can fast forward ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to do it one more time for those sort of new to this technique. So we're going to start the repeat with 1 single crochet. Now I'm going to do my treble into the white front post directly below the next stitch. So it's right here. If you find your front post stitch or your overlay stitch is really leaning one way or another, it's because you didn't go into the front loop directly below. So if you're way over here, just check to see which stitch you went into. So we're going to skip this one, do 3 single crochet, two, 3, do another treble into the front loop right here, skip that one, and then 9 single crochet, finish it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oops. Let me try that again. There's some fluff on my yarn. 8 and 9. All right, there we go. That's the repeat. So like I said, we're going to have these pairs of red front posts. Again, right now they're just overlay stitches. Soon we'll have front posts going into them. So that's sort of the basis of our design from here on in. Go ahead, you want that pattern a total of 6 times. So 6 times should bring you all the way back around to here. When you're done, go ahead and join the ends with a needle join, and we'll start the next round. Okay, so before I join, I did just want to make a note. You should, with this pattern, if you have the 90 stitches that we've been counting, when you finish your 9th stitch, so that's the last stitch of the pattern here, your next one should be where we joined. So these 2 ends should meet completely. If you find that you're short a few stitches, go back and check each repeat, make sure you didn't skip anything, like especially that first single crochet you have to do with each repeat before you do the triple overlay stitch. If you notice that you're over a few, check and make sure you didn't put any extra in there. If you did, you're gonna have to undo the work to where you made that mistake and then repeat stuff around, because one mistake here is just going to blow up as we continue on through the work. So since these 2 matched, I know I'm good to go. One other thing that's good to check at this point, if you see here, you notice these pairs, that's where everything is based off of. I'm a little closer to this side with the pair than I am to this side. See how here I'm a little closer to the corner than I am on this one? You can check the other side too. You're gonna have the same thing. I'm closer here than I am on that side. For me, it doesn't bother me. That's all gonna be based on where we started this blue variegated round and where that first spike stitches that we started everything. If you're really skewed over to one side versus the other and it's bothering you, what I recommend, because everything is based off of this round, undo this round, start it over, and move over a stitch. So instead of starting in the first spike stitch, maybe try starting in the first one after the first single crochet after that spike stitch, so that everything moves over one. If you need to move it over a little bit, go ahead and start 2 stitches over. Everything from this point on is based on this, so if it's not perfectly centered and that's bothering you, make sure you fix it now, because you can't fix it later. So like I said, I don't mind it being a little off. It's those little inconsistencies I enjoy, because I think they really make the work unique and cool. But if it's bothering you, fix it now. Move everything over. Just repeat the round exactly as is, but start 1 or 2 stitches over, depending on how skewed or how off-center you might be. So since I'm okay with the work, I'm going to go ahead and join my ends. Needle joins in the corner are always the toughest. I try not to have them happen that often, but they do from time to time. So we're going to go ahead. Our first stitch is actually this treble, so I'm going to grab it there through both loops, bring it to the back, pull it a little tight, and then here go to the last single crochet from the last repeat, go in just through the back loop from back to front, and pull it through the middle of the stitch. So there we go. Join complete, round number 4 complete, and the start of our overlay pattern is done. So we'll continue on from here.